Distant Worlds 2. It's a vast 4X space strategy game that continues to go from strength to strength. Having already looked at the 3 faction DLCs that introduced the Atuk, Wekarus, Camino, Geyserians, Ikuro, and Dayut, this video will look at the largest DLC expansion of the game to date, the return of the Shakturi. It's bigger and more expensive than the other DLCs because it adds a whole lot more content. So let's take a look at what you get and whether it might be a good purchase for you. First off, one of the best things about Distant Worlds 2 in general is that it constantly receives free updates, and several of my personal favourites were released alongside the Return of the Shakturi DLC. Given how vast this game is, it was cumbersome to manually control your fleets during a war, as you have so many of them with so many potential targets. But the free update, alongside the Return of the Shakturi DLC, introduced an expanded enemy targets list. Basically a long list you can scroll through, highlighting all of the possible targets you could instruct your fleets to attack, with a sub-list of options for each target. Using an individual colony world as an example, you could instruct a fleet to clear defences, or bombard the colony, or invade, raid, or blockade. You can still manually control your fleets by pointing and clicking, or indeed set the AI to automatically manage your fleets. But the expanded enemy targets list gives you a centralized place to issue or queue up orders without getting bogged down in the detail, making coordinating a war so much more manageable after this update. War missions take the form of an advisor suggesting you attack or defend something specific in your war against another empire, with rewards that boost your war score, increase your empire happiness, and increase the enemy's war weariness too. They're basically an optional mini-mission within your wider war to give you something to focus on with a little reward at the end, rather than simply slogging it out. And you can see which locations have a war mission when scrolling through your enemy targets list too, which is rather convenient. It's also possible to send agents on a mission to destroy a particular facility to help you achieve your goals if you aren't keen on sending an entire fleet against a well-defended planet. So those are 2 of the main free features that released alongside this DLC. But what about the DLC itself? Put simply, the Return of the Shakturi is a big deal because it adds the first proper Endgame Crisis for Distant Worlds 2. In essence, that is what you are purchasing with this DLC. The Shakturi are not a playable faction in this DLC. They are the guys responsible for the last cataclysmic galactic war, and as part of this DLC, they are back to ruin your day. You do have some control over when this storyline actually starts, or you can turn it off completely. But broadly, the Endgame Crisis kicks in based on your tech level, the galaxy's tech level, and how dominant you are being in the galaxy in general. Then you'll get a notification about destabilizing rifts for your scientists to explore. I don't want to spoil the story, but a slight spoiler ahead, this basically culminates in a huge battle between 2 factions that you can join, the Shakturi Axis and the Freedom Alliance, or you can attempt to stay neutral. So there's a lot of build-up and story that comes with this Endgame Crisis, but there's also brand new technology to discover, namely genetic engineering, bio-warfare, and psychic abilities. The Shakturi will attack you with all of these things, and you'll unlock entirely new sections of the tech tree with new items to research to help you fend off the Shakturi and utilize the technology for yourself. Planets will become infected, otherwise docile space creatures will be turned against you, and the Shakturi can use psychic abilities to take over characters or even the leader of an empire, which is particularly tricky for hive mind empires. They can even disable your combat units or make them turn on each other, so researching defenses against all of this is essential for survival. This DLC also introduces huge planet destroyers and mega ships for each faction. They're useful against the Shakturi, generally look pretty awesome, but you don't need to actually play with the Endgame Crisis to use them. They're just there for you to enjoy. The DLC also comes with Outposts, which are especially useful when you come across a world that isn't suitable for you to colonize, but you don't want anyone else to have it either. You can establish an outpost, which allows you to claim the territory and connect it to your current territory. This is essentially a way of denying your enemy a particular world, staking a claim for yourself, and it's possible to build certain things on an outpost, such as terraforming for the planet. But this isn't a way of turning a barren rock into a tropical paradise. You can just make it a little more suitable for your species. As mentioned previously, the Endgame Crisis will culminate in a battle between two factions made up of multiple empires. That wasn't previously possible in Distant Worlds 2. Your alliance options were too limited, but now you can have a multi-empire alliance, which goes beyond simply having a defensive pact. More powerful alliance members will have a bigger say when it comes to deciding who can be expelled from your alliance, but admitting a new empire needs to be unanimous. Although this is a fundamental part of the Endgame Crisis, you can form a multi-empire alliance whenever you like. Something the community had been requesting for a while was a start in the game where you have a handful of ships without a home planet, wandering the galaxy in search of a new home. The Shakturi themselves enter the game in this way, but it's also possible for you to have a Battlestar Galactica start to your game if you're looking for a new, more challenging way to play. Eventually, you'll establish a colony and decide which government type you're going to end up with, provided you keep your people alive for that long. The other DLCs for Distant Worlds 2 add 2 new playable factions for you to choose from, along with a handful of new features, whereas Return of the Shakturi brings a whole new dynamic to the game entirely. An endgame crisis that especially Stellaris players will have felt was sorely missing from this game. Well, now it's here, and if you're patient, you can pick up this DLC with a 10% discount. Return of the Shakturi is an almost guaranteed must-have for those who already own and enjoy the base game of Distant Worlds 2. It gives you more content, more options, and a meaningful endgame crisis. That takes time to build with storylines and research, but one word of caution. I don't think this DLC is worth purchasing alongside the base game. The base game is huge. It's confusing at first, and there's a heck of a learning curve. New players don't need Return of the Shakturi as well. The base game has plenty for you to enjoy, and if you do end up falling in love with Distant Worlds 2, you can rest assured there is a DLC waiting for you to give you even more fun when the time is right. If you have any questions on this DLC, please leave a comment, and I'll do my best to answer. If you found the video useful, please leave a like for the algorithm, and if you enjoy this style of review, or this type of game, then I'd be grateful if you checked out my other videos when you have time, and perhaps I'll see you in the next one. See ya.